Y'all are about to get rocked because I got a really good friend here today who is super smart, and part of that is because she just works hard to look at all aspects of a sense of self, and she does such a good job of implementing that and teaching that, and so we get to be honored to be a part of that today. Today you're going to hear from Sandra Weber, and she is a wellness mentor, and she empowers her clients to rebuild a mind-body connection. Sandra has over a decade of experience in hands-on clinical body work and is now using that experience to assist her clients in reducing or preventing chronic pain through mind-body awareness. Sandra owns and operates Integrative Bodywork in Charlotte, North Carolina. When she's not working with clients in the treatment room, she hosts trainings for corporate and private groups, providing actionable steps to rebuild the body-mind connection. Elevating clients' physical, mental, and emotional well-being is a foundation for the hashtag relentless mindset. So everyone, help me welcome my friend Sandra Weber.
Thank you so much for having me. It is great to be with you again.
Yes, so you just were a part of ICU Talks, our mental health speaking ministry, and got to share your testimony. And so that's what I love about being able to do the podcast with you too, because that night was about your testimony. Mm-hmm. This is about because you have a testimony, because you've conquered and overcome and are so resilient. And this is, you get to share now like part of the intellectual and complete self of how you're able to overcome so much of your trauma and so much what you've been through. So thank you for being here. If you'll just jump in with telling us a little bit about what life event, what experience flipped your lid, and what measures did it take for you to reconnect to who God says you are?
First of all, I love the name of your podcast.
Thank you.
Because it's literally what we have to do to make changes.
That's right.
We have to change our mind. So I know you picked it intentionally, but I love it. I really do.
That's great.
So for me, what flipped my lid, I was thinking about that and thinking of the title of your podcast, and it wasn't like a specific event or a specific person, like, a mentor or anything. For me, it was honestly that biblical childlike faith, because when I was young, I understood enough through the prodding and leading of the Holy Spirit to realize what I saw going on around me was not what I saw in here. So, but coming from the culture that I did, with my family are from the Kentucky, Tennessee, tri-state area, so very traditional, fundamentally minded Baptist and several different denominations, but a certain style of family culture came with that. But of course, anything can be pathologized depending on how far you take it on the spectrum, one way or the other. So as a child, I just started looking around at my environment, and I started comparing it to what I thought God wanted our relationships to look like. And I think I've always been a realist. That's my default setting. I don't get very emotional. Again, my testimony with the other talk was, I learned to control that quickly. But I began to look around and see what I saw didn't match up to what I thought it should be. And I just came to my own conclusion at an early age that I'm going to be patient because I cannot change my environment. And when I get old enough to make my decisions, the people that are going to surround me are going to be more of a biblical view of friendship, relationship, love, support, grace, all those things. Wow. So that's really what it was from a child, that childlike faith, and looking forward into the future, like I shared at that testimony, was having partners in my life and people around me that brought me to that safe place, that safe haven.
Yeah, it's just amazing to talk to people who, as a child, made a decision. And that's so much of what you do today is about being actionable. But you made a decision that I can't control this, but I will control who's around me later. And that you were hanging on to that. Yeah. Yeah.
And it still guides me every day, because I always tell my clients, I'm always that little girl on the inside.
Right. Sure. Absolutely.
We're always that little child on the inside. And, situations, stories, feelings, emotions, how I handle things can pop up at any time, but I know what's real and I know what's solid and I know what can't change. Yeah. So no matter what circumstances might change around me, what people may come into my life through networking or a business relationship or whatever. If it goes awry, I just center myself and I go back to what I know is truth, and that's how I proceed.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you're touching on my next question, but I'm going to ask it because it's in a little different way. Who were you before your innocence was taken away?
I was and still am a very simply minded person. I love simple things. I love music. I love being outside, and I love peace. That was one of the, when I was a teenager, my mom used to worry about me. I would sit outside in the swing with no book, obviously with no phone back then, and just sit there. And that's me. I desire peace. I want internal peace. I want everybody around me to have peace.
Right.
And that's my goal. That's what I push for.
Wow. So peace that's your center, right? So I mean, it's interesting because you and I both love talking about the vagus nerve and autonomic nervous system, and
absolutely,
there's not a lot of people I can talk about that with, so I get so excited. Just the idea of you being on the swing in the backyard and finding your way to get in ventral vagal. All right, and I know you probably didn't have the words back then about vagus nerve and autonomic nervous system, but that you found your way to get there in the middle of chaos.
Yes.
And so can you tell a little bit about your journey of going from not knowing that you were or controlling your vagus nerve, getting in ventral vagal, finding your way to have internal control, and then now being a person who learned it and teaches it? Can you give us a little bit about that journey?
Yep. So as a child, like I said, my family culture was, they were coal miners, my grandfather, my family. So they had a hard life, and that is a precursor to how they were presenting themselves into the world. And I had to learn how to, act in that culture. And I learned quickly. I had an older sister, and we're different on many levels. I learned if I monitored my behavior and my speech, that I wouldn't get fussed at or, in trouble. So I learned by force of nature where I was to control my breathing.
Wow.
So I didn't know that that's what I was doing in the vagus nerve mindset in controlling that, but I learned to control my breathing and control my response on my face, and to keep myself calm under any circumstance. So that was how I learned how to manage my situation. And then getting into body work, as a massage therapist, the reason I got into body work was more for the athletic side, like helping people, learn to take care of their bodies, learn how to not have pain, learn how to get out of pain. That was my first impulse towards manual therapy. But as soon as I got into it, I learned very quickly that people were coming to me, and I was dealing with mental and emotional expressions. So the physical expression of mental and emotional, sometimes pathology or just life experience.
Right.
So then I realized, okay, and with a big part of what I do is craniosacral therapy. Are you familiar with that?
I am, but I love you to talk about that because religiously we get taught to not be a part of something like that. Yeah. Right. So I'd love for you with this audience to elaborate on the beauty of craniosacral.
Yes. So it is down to educating yourself, because craniosacral therapy has absolutely nothing to do with Reiki and energy work.
Right.
Is there energy involved? Of course, because we are all energetic beings.
Right.
So, and that is one part of being a good craniosacral therapist, is the actual provider being able to stay calm. One of my instructors was working on one of the founders of this work, and he was trying to do a certain manipulation or move or whatever. He was like, I just can't, get myself there. And he was like, are you stressed? Are you calm? Like, if you're not calm, you can't calm me down.
Wow.
So again, one of the powerful things that I'm empowered by is that, like I said in the talk with you a few weeks ago, my adaptation is now my superpower. Like I've been doing this for over a decade. Probably 80% of my clients always say when they're finished with their first couple sessions, I've never fallen asleep in a massage. I'm hyper stressed out. I'm type A. I never imagined I would fall asleep and snore while someone's touching me.
Right.
And part of that work is me being able to stay calm. But to explain craniosacral therapy has nothing to do with Reiki, nothing to do with energy work, nothing to do with Mother Earth coming over you and healing you. Absolutely 100% nothing to do with that. If you can imagine your brain, your skull, your spinal column, you've probably heard cerebrospinal fluid. So your fluid that protects and houses your brain and spinal column has a flow to it, just like your blood has a flow, just like your lymphatic system has a flow, but it doesn't have a pump. So that being the case, it's supposed to follow along with the blood flow, human movement, balance, all of that. Well, when we have restriction, when we're mad and these muscles get really tight, when we clench our jaw and this gets super tight, and we have TMJ and we have ringing of the ears, we have headache pain or eye pain because of all the tension, that's not just superficial. That's not just here. That goes inside here. And then you add in concussions, or you add in a traumatic birth experience.
Right.
We see the babies with the little helmets on all the time. Craniosacral therapy is designed to help all of that function better.
Right.
What I'm doing, and again, because I've had so many years of experience, I know what someone's body should feel like where the skull should be sitting, where the neck should be sitting. And so when I'm working through with them, I'm holding a position until I can feel the body relax. If they have extreme forward head posture, I'm kind of tractioning that head back so that it takes the pressure off the posterior parts of the brain, the skull, where the vagus nerve comes out. I have a really unique opportunity to physically be with people and be touching where their vagus nerve comes out.
Wow.
And I own these muscles. And I get chill bumps almost every day, because when I'm working with someone and I'm able to manually release locally, it has an immediate effect on their nervous system. And if their body's laying on the table here, I'll see their body kind of drop into the table, because it relaxes that nervous system, and all that fluid flows start to be, pressure all releases and relaxes the muscles and the ligaments of the face, and it just puts that body into that just phase we're searching so diligently for, but can't get, because the average person doesn't know that their SCM is contributing to their vagus nerve issues, because it's so tight here. So I encourage everyone. I encourage people, newborns, moms right after delivery. If you have a car accident, everybody should, but for especially those big time trauma situations, you need to get craniosacral therapy. It is one of the best things I can recommend for people.
You know, I just want to just affirm that, because some of the people I work with that have the hardest time doing trauma work with me, it's because they don't have a big trauma to point to. It's not a divorce. It's not a car accident, but it is life on life's terms. It is going to school and having some boy look at you and say, you shouldn't eat that much. Like, people think that's not a big deal, but you hold that in your body. I would recommend this for anyone. And what I love about you is that you're that safe person, because I will tell you, there are very few people I will let touch me. And there's good reason for that. And so for people to be able to, because, you know, you're attracting people who have bodies been traumatized, but most likely they've been emotionally, spiritually, and physically traumatized. And if you're not that safe person, nothing happens. Right.
And that's the physical part of this whole equation is what is most often left out. And I've said before, you know, religion has done a disservice to people, because they so put the emphasis on spirituality and not the body. And then Western medicine takes out the soul and the emotion and just looks at the systems. Both of them are great. We need both of them, but we can't operate in different planes because our bodies don't do that. If we don't have one or the other, we're dead.
That means that'll preach right there. That'll preach.
The physical part is left out so much. And when you're getting body work, I talk about this all the time, because when people are stressed, you know, you can tell yourself, and I use this example, when is the last time your partner told you to calm down that it worked? It doesn't work when you tell yourself that either.
Never.
It doesn't work. It makes everything worse. So when your body's giving you these symptoms and these signals and this communication, when my neck is constantly an issue, when I have these injuries I can't get over, when no doctor or anyone can tell me what's wrong, it's your body's only method of communication via a symptom to let you know I'm not safe. So even when you start going on this healing journey and you're getting the therapy like with you that absolutely people need, to address the physical body only will make your work go quicker.
Right.
Because we're telling the actual physical body, oh, no, hey, you're safe. And we're practicing allowing the body to be safe. Because I can tell myself over and over, I'm safe. But if I don't feel it here, literally in these spots, and, you know, getting into the core, the gut, the pelvic floor, when I work on a new client, I can tell almost every time. And of course, I don't ask until a couple sessions in. They usually end up sharing because that's the power of touch. It's very healing and very opening, literally and figuratively. But when I'm doing range of motion techniques with the leg or doing different things on the leg, feet, hips, I can tell that there's been some sexual trauma. And that is perceived or literal. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Sure.
And there's that holding, there's that gripping of the pelvic floor that lets me know there's something more here than just I sit at a desk 8 hours a day. And so that's where I start trying to build that rapport with that person that I can, like I said, usually they end up telling me and then I refer them out to someone like you because we got to have both.
Right. Well, I just love what you're saying, and you're saying it so well. And just knowing, like, if you are a confident psychotherapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, you're in, I was going to say cahoots, but there's probably a better way of saying it, but you're working in conjunction you're in a partnership. Thank you. A partnership with someone like you, because it is all of us. It is mental, it is physical, it is spiritual, and our bodies keep the score. All right, brilliant book, and because our body has perfect memory, and so oh look, that's amazing. So that's a great book. It's not the easiest read, but it's worth the time to sit still with it and to absorb the absolute truth in that. Tell me the main thing, because I know you're already so educated. What's the main thing you got from the Body Keeps Score?
It's almost like what I already knew. It just gave me so much more information about it. Yeah. You know, the mental, physical, emotional is inseparable. We have to address it. Right. I mean, what are you doing we know, I mean, again, as Christians, we're praying, we are, seeking God's face. We're doing all the spiritual things. What are you doing to your literal body, helping it to calm down? It's not, again, with my family's culture and belief system, they just think yoga is horrible. You're going to be oppressed or possessed. Right. So don't pick yoga. Pick intentional breathing. Right. Or assisted stretching. Whatever it is that makes you feel comfortable. But you have to do something to this thing. There was a meme I saw the other day. I forgot what the story was, but basically God said, sit down, take a nap, and have a snack. That's great. One of the parables in the Bible. So we have to address this physical being, and that's my specialty. So getting people to understand that, and the body keeps the score. And I recommend my clients to go listen to the YouTube videos. Yeah, because most people don't have the time to read the book or the interest to sit for that long. Yeah, that's very true. But if you can pick up one or two things of like your book, you connect with one or two things from your story, and you can see an avenue to where whatever happened, like with my people, I can give you 50 things you could do with your body tonight. Try one of them. Yeah. But try something. Right. Because if you go to lay down in bed and expect your body to go to sleep, at the cortisol level and the tension level that you're running at, there's no wonder you can't go to sleep. Absolutely. So we have to negotiate with our body, especially if we're in that severe healing and trauma recovery phase. All bets are off with everybody else's stuff. We need to take a hot bath. We need to body brush. We need to do some gentle yoga or stretching. Some guided meditation. I teach my clients how to do their own anterior neck release. It's on my YouTube channel. So learn something tactile to this biological being that can help you with all the other things you're putting so much effort into.
Well, that's another thing I want everybody to hear from you is, for some of us, we're not going to let someone touch us, but I'll watch your YouTube video. You're so generous with your podcast and the YouTube and all the things you're doing and Instagram. You're so generous with your knowledge. And to start there, with other people, they can't sit and watch it, but they can come be touched by you.
Mm-hmm.
Like in you, I mean, again, it's just you have a panoramic view of all of it, and you've provided different avenues for people.
Yes.
So well, because we're hurting and we get comfortable in that. We believe safety is being disconnected. We don't even know our neck hurts. We don't even know there's a choice to go get better because we're so comfortable with being in pain.
And the way I describe that to people and make them understand it is, when you get dressed in the morning, you feel yourself put your clothes on, but you do not feel your clothes on you all day.
Right.
Your brain knows that that's not important. I can disassociate from that, because if your nervous system had to be aware of your clothes touching every inch of your body, it'd drive you nuts.
Very much.
Well, especially when we're in, like if your family situation isn't going great, your body's constantly being told through your eye gate, through your ear gate, through the energy in the room, all those senses, I'm not safe. So, if I'm willing to stay in that situation and work through it, I have to intentionally take time away from that environment and calm my physical being down so that I have the capacity to go back into it renewed and be able to handle it and make decisions and logically think, because we can't logically think when we're in fight or flight. And You're exactly right. I have several clients that come to me and say, I don't like massage, but I've got to get help for my neck. And that I have a program for that. I have a program where I will just do muscle testing. They'll usually let me touch their neck or something if that's what's hurting with their clothes on. Right. And I'll do muscle testing, figure out what muscles are weak, what muscles are compensating for it, because that dynamic's always there. I'll teach them rebalancing techniques, and then they'll come back in a couple of days. I'll check their balancing techniques, add more to it. But what always happens is once they come back into my room, once they've met me, once they let me work on their neck a little bit, they're like, I think I might want to try just an upper body massage.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'm like, okay, great. So we'll just do upper body, back, neck, and shoulders.
Right.
And
then again,
it
goes back to you're centered, you're connected to self. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that evidence in your life.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be happening. So I was taught, and I think this is true, people mishear this, that 80% of our autoimmune or disorders or physical ailments are psychosomatic. But the psychosomatic means that it first presented as trauma and was never released. Would you agree with that?
100%. And because I've had so many years of experience, I can start comparing clients that come in. And so this client comes in, I'll give you two examples, or two people as an example. I had two moms, almost the exact same body type. They both had 4 kids. They were both about 50 pounds overweight. Both had all kids by C-section. Both were having severe SI joint pain, low back pain, debilitating. So one of them, took everything that I was saying, because I always get into this verbiage with them. Well, it's not just physical. There's usually always something else there. And I was talking about, muscles compensating and just all the things I'm talking about. And so the one client said, I'm a compensator for my family. So I'm doing everything for my boys. I'm doing everything in the house. I'm expecting nothing of my husband. I have to change that or I'm never going to get better. And I didn't have to have that conversation with her. I was explaining her body to her, but I was, sticking in a little bit here and there.
Right.
The same thing was going on in the other client's family. And I eventually, I remember specifically, because I do packages of 6 and you get a discount. She was at the end of her second package, and I was trying to teach the physical techniques to help recover, and she wouldn't do anything I asked her. I'm like, if you don't do, and I make it as easy as possible. I regress it back to the easiest thing. It's not difficult, little things to do. And she wouldn't do any of them. And this is a question I want to ask you in a little bit, but she was choosing to stay in that way her body was presenting, almost as a repercussion for her being the compensation in her family. I'm doing all this for you. I'm hurting, and I want you to see that. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Oh, You're spot on. You are
So
brilliant.
the other lady, the one that did everything I asked her, made that connection of her body into her family. She came back several months later and told me that I saved her marriage. Now, I don't believe that because she did the work, but putting together the two, I 100% believe that our physical ailments, obviously, this is what I tell people, most people's chronic pain is not from a fall down the stairs. It's not from an injury, a sports injury. It's not an acute injury. It is not using our bodies properly over time, and the trauma part and the psychosomatic part of staying in that fight or flight, never being able to get into rest and digest. Right. Because if you are of healthy mind, body, spirit, you could sustain an injury or have a fall and you'd hurt for a couple of days, recover, and be done with it.
Right.
But when your cortisol is up so high, you have no ability of the cells to heal, then you keep that injury and you have a chronic pain from now on.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yes, I completely agree.
Absolutely. And I see this with a lot of people. I mean, this crosses gender, race, but I do see it more with women that we get so, in this gender scripting, we get so shamed about our own emotional needs as a child that we do for others about their needs because ours are unfulfilled, and that becomes identity, and it actually becomes the cover-up of what we really need. And so when someone gives you a suggestion of like, this is what you can do now that you're in pain, the person cannot take that in because it goes against what they've known the longest. And by now they're so bitter and angry, they want someone else to notice that they're hurting and they want someone else to fix it. Yes, 100%.
Yes.
And it is so painful. And until we stop gender scripting, we get the shame off of the fact that God had you born into this world with emotional and physical needs. Until we stop doing that, you're going to be a really busy woman.
Yeah, because human nature is what it is. And, sin will always be with us until the day. Right. But that's what I try to tell my clients is if you don't want to go through a midlife crisis, develop your own individual soul authority. Right. Develop your identity.
Mm-hmm.
And your identity, the idea of that is if everything was stripped away from you, if your role as a mother was stripped away, if your husband is stripped away, if your job was stripped away, what's left? That's who you are.
Right, that's right.
Because people have had all of those things stripped away.
Yeah.
And obviously that's going to take a while to recover from. But we have examples of people that have recovered from that.
Right.
And I guarantee you they had a very deep sense of self. And while they'll have to live with the heartache of those things for the rest of their life, they still can participate in daily life on a happier, more joyful, more fulfilling level than someone that, if they lose all those things, their identity went with them. And I deal with that with every year, when school goes back in session, on a normal year. When school goes back in session, I have a flood of moms just been out of shape.
Wow. Because
their identity walked off. Right. And now, what do I do? Who am I? You know? So again, I did have, before I was married, I did have one friend that was a friend of ours that was married first, had kids first. And she told me, if you want to be that mom that you desire to be, you want to have a happy marriage, take care of yourself first. And again, I've changed so many things generationally from my past and history with how I decided to live and be in the world. So I took that to heart because I like to go to movies by myself. I'm a loner, really. I'm definitely an extroverted introvert.
You're ambivert.
I like to go to movies by myself. I like to go to the mall by myself. And so she's like, keep doing that. You have to keep doing the things that make you you so that you don't become that bitter, angry, worn out person. And then once the kids are gone, you completely lose yourself. And men too, because they can fall into that category of just the provider or just there for one thing, and especially with men, if they came up in a very oppressive, their father's very oppressive leadership, they don't have much of an identity without his approval. So they may be seeking their wife's approval all the time. And I have to make more money and I have to have a bigger house. If I don't have those things, I'm not the man that I should be. So it goes for them as well, just like you said, there's no gender difference, race difference. This is a human capacity issue.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% right. Yeah. And so in that, when you're having people come in, because I think that one of the main things I'm hearing you talk about is action, right? That is how the unthinkable happening to people, those who get to a different place with it, right? And we will always grieve, but when you get to a different place, they've taken their pain, it's become action in some way. Mm-hmm. And that you're helping free up their body so they'll know the creative thing to do. They'll know the next thing to do.
Right. Yeah. And it is so simple. I tell everybody, pick the low-hanging fruit. The easiest thing possible. I was talking to someone the other day, and it was a younger person. They were going through a very difficult time. And I was like, make your goal to get up and fix your hair one day, just something little to tell your body, I love you and I appreciate you. And that's another thing is I want to encourage people because, again, we've got to have Western medicine. Obviously, we have to have those things to help in that severe situation. But what they can't see is the precursors to a lot of things. They can't see the foresight of what you may have is going to turn into something else. So, being able to, that you're going through a situation, but be able to carve out a little bit of time to do something, to tell this physical being I'm okay, is the goal, whatever that looks like. It may be, I'm going to go take a walk by myself. It's literally getting this little jar of clay away from the situation. I mean, there are studies that show people in a hospital, if their bed is simply facing a window that sees grass or trees, they heal quicker. And that is God's design. There's people get so scared of the word energy, but God made the world with a frequency. The ocean has a frequency. Mother Nature and trees and the forest has frequencies that literally help our bodies heal.
Right, absolutely.
So if you're an outdoors person, get out. I know you're a runner.
I'm a runner. I'm a very slow runner.
That's awesome. But being outside is so helpful. So. It's just, it's that constant reminder to find some things. And because disassociation is huge. And disassociation, not only from the problem, the trauma, the history, the past, disassociation from this thing.
Right.
Because, and the way I see that play out is they'll either come on their own accord because they hurt so bad, or they'll have a family member buy them a gift certificate and they're like, they told me I had to come, kind of a thing. But they'll get in the room, they're good with the massage. But when I start, they are chatty Cathys. They are just chatting it up and laughing. It's always the same paradigm. Laughing really loud at things that aren't that funny. And I always see this connection is they don't want to think about their body. They want me to do the massage. They want to talk the whole time, and they don't think about anything. And I'm a realist, and I have the ability, and I'm thankful that I can select my client base at this point. And I'm like, I want you to get the most out of this service. So I want you to take a couple deep breaths.
Right.
And I don't want you to talk anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not your therapist.
Right. That's right. That's right.
So I want you to just receive. And that's so hard for people. It's so hard for them to be still and especially receive touch, because then everything in their being is focused on them.
Right.
Because out in the world, in their family, in their home, in their job, everything is outside of them. So that's one of the huge benefits of body work is it forces you to become introspective.
Right.
One of my educators or instructors, to get people to understand this, especially because there's a pressure issue, like I want deep tissue. Some people can't even feel. They're so dysregulated, disassociated, and probably taking nerve blockers and muscle relaxers. Yeah, again, there's time and place for all of that, but they literally cannot feel. Their nerve endings are different. So one of my instructors said, when you have a person that is in that heightened state, say, I'm going to place my hand on your back, and I want to ask if you can tell me where I'm touching, and just touch somewhere on their back and see if they can tell you. And a lot of times they're like, oh, are you touching me yet?
Wow.
They're that disassociated.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is, this stuff takes practice, especially if you've had severe trauma. And again, perceived or real, because the body associates them as both. But it takes practice to get calm if you've been up here for a long time. So with a new client, they'll come in and they'll talk a little bit through the session. They'll move and they'll squirm and, there's different things. And then if they do keep coming back by the second or third session, again, because they know that's a safe space, they're used to the room, they're used to me, they're actually coming back because they want to, within 10, 15 minutes, they're asleep.
That is so fascinating.
But they practiced it.
Right.
You have to practice. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right. And even that I want to speak into, because you brought up calm earlier, and a lot of people are very much in a fight mode or they're in flee. And I call people out, and some people are really uncomfortable with it, my patients, because they're shaking their leg. They're doing something like, do you know you shake your leg? And they don't. They don't. So, but the same is true for people who look really, really calm and what we call resting bitch face, which I think is a horrible term, everybody. That's just another way of putting women down. And what you're actually talking about is someone who's in trauma, and so their facial expressions are on lockdown because it's part of your dorsal vagal. And so a lot of people who look calm are really frozen. They've gone through life robotically. And so you see extremes, right? That someone's really, really like this, and they're constantly moving. They can't sit still, whether they're at home or in your office. And other people who seem very relaxed and like they handle things really well, and they're not okay.
An example of that is, so when someone gets on my massage table, I have them start face down, and I'm deducing just by how their body is presenting to me and doing things already when I walk into the room. And so, for example, if you're watching this, like if this is the massage table and like this is their head, this is their legs, typically a person would lay down, they would have space. Because, if you look at a skeleton, the skeleton's legs aren't locked together.
Right. So
if they lay down, there's a bolster here for their legs. They usually lay down, there's like some space there. With some people, as soon as I walk in, legs are locked down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I'll say, because I understand the pelvic floor, if we can just get those femurs away from each other, we'll open the pelvic floor a little bit. That'll help the back relax a little bit. So I'll ask them, and I'll say that. I was like, they're covered up and everything. And so I'll say, just take your feet shoulder width apart. That'll help the low back relax a little bit more. And so their legs are here, and they'll do this.
Yeah.
And so I'll say a little bit more, and it's like not happening.
Right.
And so then when I get down to their legs, at this time we're 30 minutes in, I've done their back, their neck, they're super more relaxed. And so I'll go to, and I can't work on their whole leg with it like this. So I'll, uncover their leg, and I'll start to kind of pull their leg towards me a little bit so I can get to the whole calf. Not budging. And so I leave it alone. Absolutely. I just work where they are.
Absolutely.
So that is a definite example of someone that may look in control.
Yeah, that's a great example.
But they are literally frozen. Those people usually end up with frozen shoulder.
Oh, interesting.
A lot of times the chronic pain that you have, whatever word you describe that pain with, frozen shoulder, I feel a shocking pain. I feel a pain just going everywhere. Whatever word you use and you subconsciously choose, I've seen so many times be directly associated with the trauma that they're in or their relationship that they're in. So really think about that when you're thinking about how your pain feels to you in your body. I have a jabbing pain. I have a sharp pain. I feel hot. Those are sensations that mean several different things. But yes, the body presents itself on the table a lot of times with that psycho-emotional pathology in a physical expression.
It's absolutely fascinating. Children, a lot of times their trauma shows up with stomach problems. And I'm always shocked when people my age come in and they found some doctor in their kid that called it for what it was, which was trauma. But it's rare. But I'll hear it occasionally. That my age and older, I think people are just more aware and just have more knowledge now and life experience about neuroscience and trauma being trapped in the body. But it really does, it'll show up in your stomach as a child. And I think as we get older, it it becomes autoimmune. It becomes frozen shoulder. It becomes a plethora of other things.
Yes.
That they go from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor and no relief.
And so the way I start trying to get people to make those connections so they realize they have to work on their physical body is when you become stressed and you're not breathing correctly, we breathe up here. We use these accessory muscles to pick up the ribs because our gut, our belly, we're clenching. Our diaphragm is tight. We usually clench our rear end. We clench our butt. And that bottom of the pelvic floor becomes tight. If you can imagine, this is the bottom of my rib cage and this is my pelvic floor, the base of your trunk. When we breathe, we're supposed to have this action going on and this action out the side. And when we breathe correctly, this is what's going on. And imagine all of your organs on the inside of your belly. They should be doing like this. Breathing should be an internal massage for your body. So when I become restricted in my pelvic floor, it's super tight. My diaphragm is super tight. I'm literally having to pick up my trunk to get a breath in. Everything in between that diaphragm and that pelvic floor is on lockdown. We have to have human movement to massage our body, to get the lymphatic system working, to help that detox process, to help all the functions of all those, every single organ. It has to have movement. We were created to be a moving being at all times. When that restriction, starting as a child, if they're frozen and tight and locked down out of fear, none of the organs can function correctly. You can't get the nutrients to the body that you need. So you're not going to even be growing well. So stunted growth, when we're not breathing correctly, you don't have the correct processes going on in the breath of any of it.
Right.
So, with me, especially with women, C-section recovery, if they had a traumatic delivery that they didn't get help for, they just had the delivery, the baby's okay, they're not okay up here. If they almost died or the baby almost died or they didn't plan to have a C-section, and that, again, is a shame factor in the world. Then they have this scar now, they had a surgery after they had a baby. I mean, it's just so much. I teach them how to do their own abdominal massage because they come out of having that baby and they disassociate with their stomach. They are angry sometimes, or they hate the scar, or the scar may have gotten infected and they don't want to touch it. They don't want to look at it. They cover up themselves all the time. They don't want their husband to touch them anymore. There's so many things that go on there. And so again, while they're talking to you about that and how to handle it and word it and frame it, I teach them how to start to touch it again, how to work with that scar tissue. And by choice, using your palpation skills, touching your own body, number one, you're releasing the physical capacity of scar tissue and helping move the body and the organs and all that flow. But by your intentional choice to come in contact with yourself, you promote all of that healing to happen so much faster.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really powerful. And with that, we touched on this a little bit earlier, you put a quote on Facebook the other day, and probably also on your Instagram page. I want to review that real quick. I thought it was very powerful. The autonomic and compulsive regard for the emotional needs of others while ignoring your own is a major risk factor for disease. This automatic and rigid identification with duty, role, and responsibility rather than the needs of the self is a second major risk factor for chronic illness.
It's huge.
Wow, what a powerful quote.
It's such a powerful quote. And again, I have to put this stuff out there because I need my clients to make the connection because I cannot fix them. I can't heal them. I can make them feel a little better in the session. But what they're coming to me for, usually with a chronic issue, especially, like I said, because when I start touching people, it's like they just start sharing stuff.
Right.
And so we were taught just to be listeners. We're not therapists. But usually at the end of the session, what I end up doing is saying, those things that you shared with me are directly related to how your body is communicating to you. And if we don't make those connections, we will stay in chronic pain. And you can see this, several of the other authors that I read, they get out of the traditional Western medicine and want to go into functional medicine or some other brand of or style of medicine to So they go to affluent areas where people can afford to pay for coverage outside of healthcare, and they think they'll do really well and heal their patients because they're all on board. They're doing yoga, they're doing the workouts, they're eating the protein shakes and all the good healthy food. And they get there and they get the people in the office and they give them everything they have in their toolkit, and they still don't get better. And it's because their homes are toxic.
Right.
So if your body is walking into a situation on a day-to-day basis where it is not safe, your reptilian, we compare it to a reptilian or predator detection system that was God-given, will detect, I'm not safe, this is not right, and I'm going to tell you through symptoms.
Right, that's true.
So we have to be empowered to say, you can't talk to me like that. That's disrespectful. You can't talk to the kids like that. You can't say that to our daughter. We have to become empowered to see ourselves as that created, autonomous soul that deserves respect and care from everyone around us. Right. And I've had a philosophy in my life since I was a child. I have no time for joy robbers.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't.
Yeah, it's true.
You know?
But you're giving yourself permission, despite what you've been through, or because of what you've been through, that you fought too hard for it, you don't want it.
I give people grace and second chances, but if you prove to me that my being isn't worthy of your grace, kindness, and care, I don't have time for that.
Yeah, amen.
But so many people, and it's like an addiction. And this is another thing I was going to talk to you about, but being addicted to those circumstances and how to communicate with people, that they have to break those cycles of addictions to those relationships. And it's just so hard because people are stuck in situations. And this is, I have a 20-year-old daughter and a 17-year-old son. So these topics are on my mind all the time because I've got it. My heart's desire is to get them, if they want to be married one day, to make sure they pick the right partner. I tell them all the time, the second most important decision you will make is who you decide to partner with on this earth. The first one being your relationship with God. So you have to be very cognizant of who you agree to partner with. Is this a person that will always have your best interest at heart, willing to negotiate with you? Because putting two humans together, you're going to have problems.
Right.
But are we willing to negotiate? Do we agree on all the big things right away? Do I see you as an individual, worthy of everything good and positive in the world? And will I work with you to help you get that, and vice versa? That was two things I was going to talk about in my testimony.
Yeah.
Two things I was going to talk about in my testimony. When I was first married, because my first year, we have a great relationship, but my first year of marriage, I was still like navigating the waters. Does he love me for me? Or do I need to perform and keep his attention? Or am I okay just for who I am? Or do I have to play this role? And so I was kind of doing that little figuring him out thing, and he never gave me any reason to believe otherwise. And one day, we were, this is such a silly story. I'm a volleyball player, so I was an athlete. He's basically he can do anything. His whole family's that athletic breed that can do whatever really well from the beginning. So we were like, let's take up racquetball together so we can have something together to do athletically. Because I would play volleyball all night in one side of the gym, and he played basketball on the other. We wouldn't see each other. So we're first married, nothing to do but, be at the gym.
Right.
So let's do racquetball. So we picked up racquetball, and I'm a volleyball player. I'm overhand.
Right.
I'm up here.
Course.
Racquetball's down here, and my body just did not want to do that.
Right.
That just was weird to me. So I was not getting it. Of course, he was doing fine. And he said a phrase that my dad used to say all the time. Because his dad was a coach. They all coach. So he's that, old school tough coach. He's like, come on, Sandra, use your head. And my dad used to say that all the time. Or use your head for something besides a hat rack.
Right.
And so I looked at him. I dropped my racket and I walked out. Yep. And he'd never seen me. I mean, we had never had an interaction like that at that point, because he knew my history, and he's amazing. His family is like the ideal family. The dad was like, the neighborhood quarterback for the football outside and stuff. So great family. That was an intentional choice. But so I did that, and he walked outside, and this was one of those mistaken identity things that I wanted to talk about. But he's like, Sandra, I didn't mean anything by that. I didn't mean it that way. He's like, please don't be upset with me. I promise I'll never say it again. And so at that moment, I had to introspect myself and think, am I going to be the kind of person that puts on the account of someone else what somebody else did to me?
Right.
Because he's never given me any indication or sign or did anything that made me feel that way.
Right.
He said some words that were the same. So I had to come to that decision of, I'm not going to lay on his account what someone else did. Yeah. So that was an identity I had to give up, to not hold a grudge against him for something he just said, and see him for who he was. And he was there present with me, encouraging me in a great relationship. And we moved on from that. And I determined from that point forward to always tell the truth and speak what's in your mind. And that's, we've been married for 22 years, so that's been helpful.
Yeah, it's the beauty and power of when there's a rupture to have a quick repair, but that so many of us have so much trauma without the intervention you just did for yourself, and that he came to that part as well, so you made a conscious decision to not ask him to live out the pain that your father started.
Right.
And I think a lot of us don't pause there. And we play it out and get stuck, and then we get sicker, emotionally sicker, physically sicker. And so that's just such a powerful moment between y'all, that you made a conscious choice to connect to God and to your husband and not to your past.
Right. And that can, everything spiritual can be correlated physical. So if you know that your body's having an issue, start having a diary. When does it flare up? When does that thing start to bother you physically? What was going on in your life when it happened? And what was going on in your life when I haven't thought about that thing in 3 months?
Yeah, that's good.
And start making those correlations. And like you said, it comes down to the intention. You can't be told you have frozen shoulder and pray it away.
Right.
Prayer has its limitations, So we have to, again, so like that decision I made intentionally, if I have frozen shoulder, as frustrating as it is, I'm going to have to now set aside intentional time to work on that thing and help that to heal. I can't, someone comes to see me once a month for a massage, that's not going to fix their frozen shoulder. Going to get an injection every 6 months is not going to fix that shoulder. Going to get stem or whatever other therapy that are, again, all great, but they're only a help to the body. I have to take ownership that the back of my shoulder is really weak, the front of it got super tight, and now the bone is impinged to the joint. I have to, however that got there, I have to now care for that. And that, like I said, it's a parallel to this psychosomatic side. So however our trauma came about, of course, we're not responsible for that or to blame for that, but our body will have a biological reaction to it, an expression of it. We have to deal with that.
Right.
And that's where I come in helping people is let's love on your body, because God made it to heal so quickly.
Right.
With people that come in my office that are like, I'm ready to heal. They may have handled it, everything, like they've been with you, and they've got it logically placed correctly. They've placed that situation correctly in their mind and heart, but their body hasn't caught up yet, and they're ready. And they go home, they do all the homework that I say, they make sure they're getting enough protein, they're drinking enough water every day. All those little things matter. They're sleeping enough at night, and they like take off and I had a lady come to me. I saw her 3 times. She was in her mid-30s, and she said, the past 30 years of my life have been horrible. I was like, oh, that's going to be a tough one. But she was ready and willing and present, and she had severe migraines. And I referred her out to a nutritionist because I knew there were some imbalances just by what she was telling me. We worked on the physical. I taught her all the releases for the neck. And after 3 visits, she came back to me. She walked in, she was like, I haven't had a headache for 3 weeks.
Wow.
I'm like, and I get chill bumps every day.
Yeah.
Because if we're ready, it's just like when you buy a house. I think like the law says you have to have a ready, willing, and able buyer.
Right.
If you're a ready, willing, and able body, good. Your body will heal quicker. But you have to give it what it needs. And that's the journey of the relentless mindset is you have to be figuring out what it is that your body needs. Some people need more nutrition help. Some people need more physical help. And learning that part of yourself is that journey to true health. Because I like to always remind people, true health is not the absence of sickness or disease. Asymptomatic does not mean healthy. True health is the ability of the body to come into contact with sickness, disease, or pain and recover from it. So how long is your recovery period, and how exacerbated are your symptoms? And that time when you can sustain an injury or sickness or whatever, and that healing time frame is shorter and symptoms aren't too bad, that means you're healthy. Because we can't not come into contact with pain and sickness and those things.
That's a really, really good point. So I want to throw out a craniosacral story, and then we'll wrap up with some final questions. So there's a guy named Jeff, and it's probably was 15 years ago, and he worked at Duke Hospital, incredibly intelligent, and I know this story from him doing presentations and stuff, and he got a bacterial infection in his arm, and now he's at Duke, top medical staff, everyone's trying to help him. It's been a year and a half, he's been in incredible pain, he can't move his arm, and I think they started talking amputation because they were scared of it spreading, like there was so much going on. And someone said, hey, why don't you do craniosacral? And he was reluctant to do that, but he's in a lot of pain, so he went. He told the practitioner, he said, do I have to believe in this for it to work? She said it would help, but no. And within 2 sessions, complete healing. Now, if I didn't know him, I probably wouldn't believe the story because it's one of those stories. But it really is like he didn't even believe in it. And that became the thing that completely saved his arm and completely got him well in that area. And that is so powerful. And so please know, if you're listening to this, like, we're not saying we're against Reiki, stem cell, anything. Find what works for you. You have to find what works for you. It's just the idea of not being closed-minded when you hear craniosacral or anything, that you pray about it and you decide. But
when my clients ask me, should I try, and they say a thing, I'm like, yep. Unless I know it's contraindicated for them, or it's like a hoax or whatever. Like, yep, try it, because everybody's body responds to responds to stimuli differently. I will never do acupuncture. I can't stand it. I've had 2 kids and 3 surgeries. I'm over the needles. But some people, like one of my other clients recently, she did a complete turnaround, and I think she had an extreme load of Epstein-Barr virus, and those people have a different feel in their body with their fascia. But she started doing massage, started doing acupuncture, and I'm telling you, it was like I was touching a different person.
Wow.
So try all the things. That's the relentless mindset.
All the things.
Try them all. You usually need to try them for more than one time, especially when it comes to dietary intervention, because your gut has to have at least 30 days to figure out there's something new going on anyway. But don't just try it once and think, well, it didn't work for me, because like that first massage, you may be so like, what's going on? You couldn't relax. So, try the new thing a couple times, unless it just was, counterproductive. But yeah, I'm on the same page. Try all the things.
All the things, because part of being relentless. All right. I'm going to put you in the hot seat. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and just whatever comes to mind first is your answer. All right. Okay. First word that comes to mind when you hear vulnerability.
Vulnerability, necessary.
Great answer. It is so necessary to get well.
And I'll tell you why I say that, because again, when I got married, I had a game plan going into it. I had 2 rules. Obviously we agreed on all the big things. That was the separate thing. I had 2 rules. Never yell at me. That's a game changer. Don't yell at me. I'm not going to yell at you. If it comes in your head, it comes out your mouth. Because that's the only way we can fix anything.
Yeah.
And that was my 2 rules.
Yeah. And many years later, it's still working.
Yeah.
That's great. Favorite Bible verse?
The safe haven. That I brought you to a safe haven. That's from my childhood. And unto him who is able to give you above all you could ask or think. That was the 2 verses that I constantly replayed in my mind.
I think the second one is Ephesians 3:20-21.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But that's, again, that intention that I set as a child. I can have about everything I could ask or want, and not financially, not materially. I want to always feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to always feel loved. Obviously, we're going to get on each other's nerves because we're human.
Right.
But I want to be able to always feel safe. That's not too much to ask.
That's right. It's not too much to ask. That's great. Okay. What is on your nightstand?
My nightstand has a bunch of books and a body brush and a rock salt lamp and a clicker timer for my fan over my bed.
Right.
And a diffuser and a little framed, I think it's a poem my husband gave me when we were dating.
Oh, that's so sweet.
24 years old.
Yeah. All things I would expect it to be by your bed. All things about
right?
being a body
all
worker.
Things.
All the things for a body worker is great. Okay. What surprises people the most about you?
Country. I lost my accent when I was little. I don't know why. I didn't intentionally do it, but my family are people from the holler.
I got you.
They are the moonshine making, snake handling, Virginia to Tennessee, Kentucky, tri-state area, Cumberland Gap people. And no one ever believes me.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay. What surprises you the most about you?
Surprises me the most about me? I guess the confidence that I have now to walk into any room. And I explain confidence to people because I'm 5'10". And so when I have heels on, I'm over 6 foot. So it's quite a sight. My daughter's taller than me. So when we walk in a room together, it's different. So because of my body, I already have a kind of a presence, but I did not have what I looked like on the inside until later in life.
Yeah.
So what I explain confidence as now is it's not because I think I'm anything or any of that. It's I'm comfortable in my skin. I'm comfortable with my bad stuff. I'm comfortable with my good stuff. And they're both important because I honestly think our best attribute can sometimes become our worst feature. And our worst feature can oftentimes become our best attribute.
Right. And God can use it. Absolutely.
Sometimes I'm too strong. Sometimes I'm too much. But I'm also the person that everybody comes to when everything hits the fan because I'm able to handle it. And then, sometimes I'll overstep my bounds and interject myself too much, and my husband will go like this.
Right. I love it. Yeah, because both are so true. Okay, favorite binge-worthy show?
Binge-worthy show. I don't have a binge-worthy show. A movie that I've seen a gazillion times is P.S. I Love You.
Oh, really? Okay. That's cute.
Yeah. I'm a romantic at heart. You just would never know.
I got you. Okay. What does your playlist reveal about you?
My playlist is just like my personality. So I have my massage relaxing playlist, and then I have my gym workout playlist. And it's hard and loud.
All right. Very, very different.
There's nothing in between.
All right. Last question. When you hear flip your lid, now what's going to come to mind?
Whatever I think about a situation, what is the complete opposite of it? And either that or somewhere in between is probably what I need to do.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. It's been so wonderful to speak with you. And I know the people that heard this are going to be blessed and have a new avenue, have a new place that they can go and learn more about neuroscience and their body and getting well. If they wanted to get in touch with you, can you throw out your Instagram handle, Facebook, whatever else? How will we get in touch with you?
Instagram is at the Sandra Weber, and only because I'm so boring and I couldn't think of anything else and I hate numbers. And someone said, put the in front of your name. I'm like, okay.
That's
so
great.
It's the Sandra Weber.
Yeah.
And then Facebook page is the Relentless Initiative. They can contact me that way.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And thank you for what you do, because you are able to reach people that a lot of times the church ignores. And they don't give enough grace when they don't look the same or act the same or are at the same level. And your ministry is so needed, and you're helping so many people. And it's just, people like you are another rule that I have for myself is surround myself with people that are pressing towards the same thing I am. Yeah. And so I surround myself with people like you, and I watch your stuff on Instagram and Facebook. And that's what is feeding my eye gate and my ear gate and my heart. So that's another thing we have to be conscious of, is surrounding ourselves with those people. So thank you for being part of that for me.
Well, I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart for those words, and I love the eye gate. I think that's so important that we say that. So that all of you that listen today, I feel confident you've heard something today that flipped your lid and allowed you to reconnect to who you really are. Thank you all.
Thank you for listening to Flip Your Lid with Kim Honeycutt. Please subscribe, rate, and share. You can find Kim on Facebook or Instagram at kbhoneycutt. To get an autographed copy of Kim's book, visit butyourmotherlovesyou.com. Remember, no matter what, treat yourself well today.